So let's talk briefly about some of the job changes for 6.1 because they definitely look a little bit questionable, I would say. Normally, I am pretty trusting of them with what they're doing with jobs, even when it comes to simplifying jobs, but I think this might be a step in a bad direction, or at least a direction that makes me a little nervous, to say. Off the top, I'll say I don't like them not showing a more exhaustive list of the job changes. Normally I totally agree with them not showing potencies and not showing everything, because obviously they change things until the last minute. But this is a case where I feel like they just don't really go into enough detail on these changes. On stream, it just felt like they kind of glossed over them in just talked about other stuff instead, when I wish they would have spent more time talking about job changes. But let's start from the top. So machinist potency boosts are going to help it do more damage because it's kind of on the lower spectrum right now. It's definitely been having a problem with damage for the entirety of the expansion. I know a lot of people have been complaining about it. Obviously, it doesn't fix all the problems with the job, because I know more people have complained about things other than potency increases. For one, I know a lot of people have been saying the skill ceiling for machinists is so low. There's not really any skill expression in the job. You just kind of learn how to play it and then you're good to go. You do the rotation perfectly every time because there's almost nothing to really mess up in machinist if you're good. But hopefully the potency changes will help it kind of match DPS with other jobs. Now we move to Samurai. This is something I know a lot better. Samurai's my main. I play it. I've been playing it since Stormblood. The crit changes here could potentially be bad. It kind of messes with some of the synergy with other jobs. I don't know if it'll benefit from stuff like Chain Stratagem or Battle Litany as much anymore. So those buffs will be less useful for Samurai. I'm pretty sure most Dancer buffs won't be good for it anymore either, because I believe those only affect crit rate, not crit damage. Melding, I don't think will be terribly different, just because crit melds affect your crit damage as well, so you'll still want to buff crit. But yeah, Madare, Keishi Setsugeka, Ogi Namakiri, Keishi Namakiri, all auto crit now. It's an interesting change. We'll see what happens. It's not going to change how the job feels. What will change how the job feels is the removal of Hisatsu Kaiten for button bloat. I'm very confused as to why they think Samurai has button bloat. If you're going to look at a job with button bloat, look at Ninja. Ninja's got way more button bloat than Samurai. I don't know how they're going to add another ability to Ninja in the next expansion without removing like a lot. But I mean, if we're looking at button bloat on Samurai, I mean, Sene, Gurren, why are these two separate buttons still? Just make Gurren 2 or make Sene Gurren 2 and, you know, have it AoE. Shoha 2. What's going on with that? Why isn't Shoha 2 just a direct upgrade to Shoha 1? Why is it its own button? It doesn't really make sense to me. I get that it's an AoE version, but I mean, am I ever using Gurren and Shoha 2 outside of a dungeon? Not really. Especially since it's not a gain off of two enemies. There's hardly any raid content or savage content or ultimate content for that matter that you're ever going to be using these abilities in. And honestly, if you're reducing button bloat, I would just get rid of those two abilities and merge them into Sene or Shoha 2. You know, just get rid of them, make this 2 buttons instead of 4. And Iki Shoten. Whenever you press Iki Shoten, you've got Ogi Namakiri ready. Why not just make Ogi Namakiri take over the Iki Shoten button? Is it a problem with the game's programming or something? I don't really see the purpose for those to be, you know, for those to be 2 separate buttons. If we're talking about button bloat, there's buttons you can get rid of that aren't, you know, integral to the feel of the job. And I would say that Kaiten is integral to the feel of the job. Feels good to press. The other thing, it's honestly the only thing that makes Kenki relevant at all. At this point, they honestly might as well just remove the Kenki gauge. It serves no purpose. You really only use it. The only thought that goes into using the Kenki gauge, it's not much thought, is you don't have to spam. You don't spam Shinten so that you have enough Kenki to use Kaiten, right? You can screw yourself over pressing Kaiten or Shin 10 too often, and then you don't have your Kaiten ready for your dot or your big move. And now they're just removing that thought entirely. It's just a gauge that you fill and then spend in a buff window like every other gauge in the game. Very disappointing. Very, very, very disappointing by that. Honestly, they could just remove the Kenki gauge, put Sene on a cooldown that shares it with Iki Shoten. It's not like you're ever gonna miss Sene with Iki Shoten being on the same countdown anyway, so it doesn't really matter. And just make Shin 10 stack to 3. Give it 3 charges. There you go. It's basically exactly the same. You don't need that meter anymore. It doesn't serve a purpose. I really, really hope that they turn around with the Hisatsu Kaiten change, but I don't think they will, which is a little upsetting and a little regrettable. Moving on to Ninja. I don't think Ninja's changes are that bad. It's going to feel exactly the same. If anything, it'll feel a little bit better. It's going to be easier to move your big 2-minute buff with other people's buffs, because Mug is just a button that you press, like Arcane Circle, Battle Litany, Chain Stratagem. You just press the button. It's not something you have to set up anymore, like Trick Attack. It'll make it easier to synergize with other jobs. However, making it not Trick Attack, I mean, it having the last 1-minute buff is kind of its identity, right? It's been, the big 1-minute buff since A Realm Reborn, and taking that away and making it a personal buff, I think it's kind of, I don't know, it's a questionable change. I don't know if I like it that much. Also, aesthetically, it's kind of weird that Mug is the last real rogue ability left in Ninja's kit. Feels like at this point Mug would have been upgraded to like some other ninja move, but maybe that'll happen later down the line. Okay, Dark Knight players, you can rejoice at last. Right? They fixed the job. Works now. To improve survivability when using Living Dead, the effect of Walking Dead will now restore HP by a significant amount upon successfully landing attacks. This is a good change, but only if they make sure that when you fill your HP, you don't lose the Walking Dead buff, because if you do, then that's basically a stealth nerf. Because then the issue becomes, well, do you pop Living Dead to survive a tank buster, but it happens to line up with your burst window, and now, I got Walking Dead up, and in the first 3 seconds of it being up, I'm already back at full HP. It's a multi-hit tank buster, I'm dead, right? That's a problem. That's really bad. Fingers crossed that it's not going to be that way, but, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Sometimes it really feels like they don't know what they're doing with Dark Knight. I think another thing that makes that apparent is Blood Weapon isn't anywhere to be seen in these patch notes or in these job adjustments. Blood Weapon has been broken since Shadowbringers, and it's still not mentioned at all. They even said in an interview, I think around when Endwalker was coming out, that they didn't actually know that people were complaining about Blood Weapon, and I'm like, how? It's the only thing Dark Knight players ever talk about. At least it seems like it. But hopefully, we're fingers crossed. There's some Blood Weapon changes in the full patch notes, and we'll see those next Tuesday on the 12th. But we'll see. Dragoon, I'm gonna be honest, I don't play Dragoon. I sourced some stuff from some people I know that play Dragoon. If you are reducing button bloat on Dragoon, it seems like it might be Mirage Dive's time to go. Maybe have High Jump give you the eye instead. Reducing the animation lock is going to be nice, but really the actual issue for animation lock is Stardiver. Not on the other jump actions. Maybe they mean Stardiver included with jump actions, but we'll see. Summoner, Searing Light. This change is pretty cool. Means you might actually be able to use Searing Light while you're in Bahamut or Phoenix when Carbuncle's not out on the field, which is nice. We'll see. It's probably mostly just for ghosting, because sometimes it just won't use it when you press it, or it might not be in range, something like that. But we'll see. I think it's a welcome change. on a white mage, right? White mage changes, pretty cool. The effect radius of Cure 3 in Asylum has been extended to 10 yalms. That's a lot. That's really good. Makes those abilities a lot more useful, because before, you had to be so clustered up around Cure 3. That felt kind of like a relic of a Realm Reborn. Cure 3 just wasn't as useful because you'd have to be so close. But now that that range is higher, I think we'll see more use out of it and stuff like Ultimate. But I'm not a healer. I don't really know what I'm talking about. Liturgy of the Bell can now be ended at will to restore amount of HP dependent on the number of stacks remaining. This is an awesome change. There's a lot of situations where the Lily Bell, you throw it out and it just is kind of useless. It doesn't really do what you need it to do. But I think this will help it be more useful. I don't think it'll be as strong as something like Macrocosmos, but it's still pretty good. And then Scholar. Sacred Soil gets buffed. That's awesome. The Scholar in my static will probably be good to hear that. He's constantly complaining that people get out of the soil. So hopefully that happens less. Effect duration of Expedience. Granted, that's been reduced from 20 to 10. I'm going to be honest. It makes sense. Expedience was way too strong. It completely trivialized mechanics in particular in P4S. There's so many mechanics that just get trivialized because of Expedience. P2 also, same deal. Very, very strong ability. And with Ultimate coming out, I bet they looked at some tests for Ultimate and went, ugh, you know what, this is a little too strong. They did say that there were other jobs they were looking at. I think they mentioned Warrior. If I'm being honest, I think Warrior is going to get a little nerfed. I think their healing is going to get nerfed in particular. It's nice to have a Warrior around that can literally save a party. It can save a run where people are dying. If both healers are dead, Warrior can really throw out some buttons and just keep the other tank alive or keep other party members alive, which is awesome and really strong. But I think that might make it a little too strong in some places. Or at least I think the devs might think that. Also, it's kind of a problem that people are speedrunning through EX roulettes with 3 DPS on a Warrior. They might see that as a problem, and they might nerf Warrior a little bit. So yeah, those are the changes for 6.1. They certainly seem, again, a little questionable. Me personally, I think the Samurai changes are whack. We'll see if they stick to them. They probably will, which is disappointing. I'll still play the job, but it's definitely sad to see it get so casualized, I guess. I don't have a problem with casual players, but I think sometimes it's okay to let them feel like they aren't doing everything with a job, right? It's okay to let them go, oh, I'm not getting everything out of this because maybe Kai 10's just an annoying button to press, or it's hard to work around because of Kenki or something like that. It's okay to give people that feeling, because then it hopefully gives them the feeling to want to improve and get better at the game, instead of just kind of coddling them and removing stuff that they find is hard. But that's just my 2 cents. We'll see what happens.